Oh, well, I fucking hope I don't sound shit today.
Well, you've sounded shit in the past, apparently.
Have you not listened back to it?
I have, but I didn't really notice. So I find my own audio isn't brilliant, unless that's just me. Should be, because it's got a fucking mega expensive microphone plugged hardwired into my Mac.
It's a ball ache, this shit. I don't understand why it's not simpler. Does my head in. Anyway, I've got a new mic coming. I've got a fancy, proper podcasty one, so I look like a right cunt.
So basically, you look like you're sucking a dick every day. Well, I've got one of those just here. You can't see it. I can't be asked to bring it out, but I've got one here.
I think people know what a mic looks like. You don't have to show them. Oh, there it is. It's the shock absorber and everything.
Probably need a pop filter for it. And I've got an acoustic hood here, which actually deadens the sound to make the acoustics better, but I've got this fucking Lavalier as well. Anyway, battle Boris.
Anyway, Big Bojo.
Well, here's the cool thing, right? I had no idea. I mean, I knew there was some shenanigans going on in the government because Sarah had told me. But I didn't look at it because I don't keep up to date with the news or anything. And one of my clients messaged me yesterday and said something about Boris has resigned. I thought, oh. So I quickly looked at the BBC. I was doing my workout, so I looked at the BBC website on the browser I have on my phone, which is Safari, because it's shit and I hate it, so I'm not tempted to use it too much. And Bojo has resigned, but he's on about staying until they found a successor. Well, that itself is going to cause fucking problems. John Major's gone all having a fucking hissy fit about that one.
Didn't he say he's going to stay in Parliament for like up to 3 months?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. They're on about passing special laws to stop him hanging on by the skin of his teeth. Sounds like he's doing a fucking Donald Trump to me. Here's the thing, you see, I probably should, to be absolutely fair, I probably should stay more up to date with current events. Not so I'm in the loop and I can hold a conversation with people, because I'm not interested in that. I'm not interested in being seen to be erudite and informed. But certainly in terms of the business, it's probably worth, so I can see what's happening, so I can predict things like recession, like I did before, last 3 times. I've been thinking about a subscription to The Week, because I don't want an online news aggregational thing, because that defeats the object of it.
Yeah, they're a pain.
So I might better get a subscription to The Week, the printed magazine, and then just pick a time to go through it every week, just to keep abreast of what's going on. So things we need to know for the business, so we can plan strategy properly. Now, the S word that people like to ignore because they don't understand it.
What does strategy mean then, if people don't understand it?
Funny you should ask that. No, seriously. I was talking yesterday with the same guy who told me Boris had resigned, about the difference between strategy and tactics. And most marketing professionals these days don't understand the difference between the two. Worse, for not understanding the difference between the two, they think they're all strategy. For instance, LinkedIn is not a strategy, is it? LinkedIn is a tactical thing. I mean, the easiest way, the world's simplest marketing strategy, and probably the most powerful one, I guarantee it's 15 words, that's all. And if people were to focus on it and learn each of the 4 components properly, study them, either with us through the inner circle or our other work, or buy books from Amazon, or watch Gary Halbert, Dan Kennedy videos on YouTube. You don't have to pay any money for this even. You studied all 4 components of it, your business would improve exponentially within a very short period of time. Strategy is pretty much long-term focused thinking. So you might want to, you're going to Glasgow. The strategy is to get to Glasgow would be to follow the map, to travel north, that kind of thing. Whereas the tactics are, do we use a car? Do we use the train? Do we walk? What do we do when we come to a town? They're all tactical things. The strategy is keep moving forwards. It's as simple as that. Keep moving north and forwards to Glasgow,
So you prepared to share those 15 words?
Yeah, I suppose. Could I, do you think, or should I make them go to the blog where they have to pay to see it?
Well, we'll share it with them, but if they want the deep dive, they've got to go to the blog.
Okay, fair enough. It's simple. It's the right message to the right person at the right time over the right medium. 15 words. If you were to take each one of those, so market, message, time, and medium, and study each one and how they plug together properly, you would have a proper marketing strategy, and from that you would develop a marketing system, and within each of those components you would have tactical implementations of each component of the strategy. Now, the way how people make the mistake or how they go wrong is they will say, for instance, this happens to me quite a lot. I get an inquiry. I want to do some Facebook advertising. They're immediately choosing the medium first without any thought towards who they're targeting, when they're targeting them, what they're going to say. And I say, well, how do you know? Well, because I thought everyone's on there. I thought that's what I should do. Well, that's not a good reason for choosing Facebook. It's like going to, I guess we've all done it as well. I'm not being holier than thou. I just happen to have 2 decades experience under my belt of not doing it. But, you go to the gym as a beginner. What do? You've got no idea what you're doing. So you'll pick a random exercise. This is most people. Very few people actually study bodybuilding, for instance, and exercise before they go to the gym. Dorian Yates did. He's getting on a bit now, but he was a Mr. Olympia, God knows how many times. And he actually read everything he could read about it before he went into a gym. He was a monster.
He's a big boy.
Yeah. Yeah, he's not so much now, but he was then. He's now a professional or an endurance cyclist or something. He's getting on a bit. Yeah, he's no longer. He's not a young man anymore, so he's kind of changed sports. But anyway, very few people study anything to do with weight training before they go to a gym, and most of us don't even use a PT. So what we do is we go into the gym, we'll pick up a random weight for an exercise which is also random. The weight is usually too heavy because we're trying to impress other people, if not ourselves. And we've got no idea what form is. And it's a perfect storm for injuring yourself. But of course, most people who go to the gym for the first time are quite young. So they can actually do okay. They won't, if they do injure themselves, they heal quite quickly. But that's most people's approach to the gym. Well, most people's approach to business is the same. They just go into business. I'm really good at writing. I'm really good at graphic design. I'm really good at designing websites. I have to do it for money. And I suppose it's inevitable, really, because they might do a couple of small jobs for friends and family, and it just segues in. And they never really stop to think, well, what am I doing this for? Where do I want to be with this? And often you get too far into it and imposing a strategy on a business, especially if you've got expenses and commitments, you're running too fast to stop.
Yeah.
You remember the kid running down the hill, and you think, this is great, until at that point you think, shit, I'm going so fast I can't stop running.
Yeah.
And if I do, I'm going to fall over into a fucking heap and break things. I've just got to keep going.
That's exactly it. So people just continue to fucking bombing it as fast as they can, even though they know they've made a grave error.
Remember the Elite Round Table last Monday? Kevin was telling us about his client who's working 18 hours a day and breaking even. Well, that's what people are doing. And they do that because they have no long-term strategy in mind. They're just everything's tactical. Yeah, cut the price to get the work. We got loads of work. We got loads of money coming in. Yeah, but you're spending loads of money as well. But Dan Kennedy says, people fall into this trap of thinking in all this fucking growth, there's got to be some net, and there hasn't. No one. Often you can be losing. We know this because of the construction guys. Some guys are maybe making $100,000 a week in invoicing, but they're losing 110. So they're paying 10 grand a month to do this work, 10 grand a week to do this work.
Mm-hmm.
Compare that to the guy we've got in Elite now, who every first of the month gets 40 grand transferred into his bank account from one of his main contractor clients. Oh no, main contractors won't do that. It's impossible. They hold all the cards. No, they fucking don't. Doesn't even give a fucking main contractor discount anymore. That alone was making him over 100k a year that he was hitherto giving away. And now he's getting paid 40 grand a month. But that probably pays his fucking wages bill for the month and then some. Imagine how that's affected his mind, his mentality, his mindset, his mental health. not getting to the 28th of the month thinking, shit, I can't pay the lads. Mm-hmm. And all this is strategic.
Yeah.
Now, people will, the very worst of this, and again, I'm biased against LinkedIn because it's such a fucking shit show and it is a business-focused platform. So, inevitably we're going to focus on that one. People think LinkedIn is a strategy. It isn't. You can have a strategy within LinkedIn. How am I going to approach my posting? Absolutely, but that's not your business strategy.
No, it's a mere tactic.
LinkedIn isn't even. I mean, if you're a LinkedIn coach, well, that itself is a bit of a dangerous game to be in because if you lose your account, you lose your business. Okay, you can ameliorate it somewhat, mitigate the risk by towing the line and a bit like people do with being Google certified. You keep up, you keep your ear to the ground and stuff. It's a risk you can mitigate. But most people don't even bother. They just, I can do LinkedIn, my LinkedIn coach. And it works great until they lose their account.
Yeah. One of the first things you ever said to me when I was just a greenhorn and I was just doing Facebook, as you said, Facebook ads might be your thing, but you can't be the Facebook guy. You said to me, you absolutely cannot be the Facebook guy because then you are so beholden to that one platform, you'll be fucked. And that's proven right because Facebook at the moment is in a bit of a tricky spot and they've had a rocky few years. So rather than just becoming the social media guy, I wanted to be the marketing in general guy. And
a bit like me, only not as good looking.
Far better looking, far more hair.
But
thank God I did, because if I pigeonholed myself down Facebook, because you're also then subject to the pop culture of what platform's hot at that moment, because that's what happens with these platforms. They go through revolutions. We'll see it with YouTube next. Everyone will be saying YouTube is the next big thing. Get on YouTube. We'll see all these dickheads transfer from LinkedIn to YouTube coaches, and then they've almost essentially got to start from scratch. And their products will be inferior because they're just figuring it out as quickly as their audiences.
It reminds me of, as a software engineer, you get a new language come out, say Ruby, or it's not new now, but when it came out, Ruby or something, and you get recruitment agencies looking for people, for Ruby programmers, for instance, with
Ruby
5
Rails
years experience. That's right, Ruby on Rails, with 5 years experience, and the language is only a year old. You're fucking stupid. And sometimes these platforms, I mean, they inevitably go through an evolution and become more difficult. Like Google AdWords now would be very difficult for someone to get into if they're not already on it and be successful.
It's a pain.
But you imagine some platforms come along. Like, do you remember Clubhouse?
Yeah.
What happened to Clubhouse?
I'm so happy we didn't get onto Clubhouse.
Oh, man. I actually went on it because I was recommended to, and I thought, okay, I'll give it a go. And I went on and I just fucking freaked because it was just horrible.
I just knew it wouldn't last.
Yeah. I did it because I thought, well, I'm prejudiced against it, so I'm going to do it because it could be just me. And it wasn't just me. It was fucking horrible. Periscope,
yeah.
Pinterest to probably a lesser extent. That's quite popular still, but it still died a death.
Pinterest is
massive. These platforms, they all wither and die eventually.
If you want to go for 40-plus-year-old, if you want to go for women above the age of 40, Pinterest is the place to be.
Oh, okay. Why is that then? I've got a friend who wants to know.
Huge, because they all go on there and they create mood boards. They create mood boards for their house, for their holidays. They even do it for their fucking businesses, for their offices. It's essentially one big mood board website. Yeah, Pinterest. If you want to go, I've told one of our construction guys to advertise on there for their bathrooms, kitchens, and whatnot, because people will go on there to get kitchen inspiration. I've had a conversation with that tattoo artist before. The first port of call, anything that is like considered a big thing to the prospect, and it's a visual thing. Pinterest is one of the first places they'll go. Second after Google Images.
I'm happy to be corrected on that one, but even so, the hype that went with Pinterest obviously it's settled down a bit. But the same with Periscope. I mean, I've not heard anything with Periscope for ages.
It's shut down.
Has it?
Yeah.
Oh, right, but there was a time when Periscope, people were saying, kind of saying, if you're not on Periscope, dead in the water.
Twitter bought it for millions.
See, I'm so uninformed about these
Yeah,
things. I didn't
took
even
it
know
behind
that.
the barn and shot it.
Good. Fucked it in the bushes. Fucked it to death. Do you think that was deliberate? Do you think that was a strategic move, was it?
No, they heavily tried to integrate it into Twitter as their live streaming thing. And just, it was shit and no cunt used it.
Fucking hell.
Because that's not why people are on Twitter, is it?
No, I suppose not. I mean, I have a Twitter account. I've had one for about 18 years, I suppose. But I think I've got some apps that are actually connected to it. So every now and again, they post there by themselves. Nothing to do with me, really. But like my cycling app that measures my cycling app, that posts to Twitter. I'm like, fucking hell. So my Twitter feed is basically loads of fucking this many miles, that many miles. But the thing is, these platforms, and even when they mature, say like Facebook, like Google AdWords, like LinkedIn, Twitter, and things, they change.
Yeah.
And they change predictably and for very good reasons. They don't change because they're becoming arseholes, necessarily. They change because when they first start out, they're below the radar. No one cares. But when they get bigger, I mean, like in the States, for instance, the FTC, if you put a bogus ad, say for a cancer cure, all right, or a weight loss cure, the FTC can not only sue the advertiser, but they can also sue the publisher. And who's got more money? Google, Facebook, Yahoo, LinkedIn, or the advertiser? Well, of course, it's the fucking it's the publisher, isn't it? So
yeah,
Google and the rest of these platforms, they tighten up their rules because they're covering their own arses. And you can't, like we said yesterday on the last podcast, their job is to protect their shareholders and to make their shareholders profit, not to please the advertiser. You know, so YouTube advertising, which is what we're looking at the moment, right now it's a free for all. And as from what you've said, I'm only passing on what you've said. People should probably be looking at that now because it's like Google AdWords was back in 2004. Get away with pretty much anything at the moment. Like Bing is still, I believe, because they're still trying to create market share. But there will come a point when it becomes so big and popular, the FTC will start going, I see. And they will tighten up. It's inevitable.
Yeah. Well,
everything is transitory.
The only reason they loosen the rules is to get advertisers on there to make money. And to create this hype and this wave, so people like us go, yeah, YouTube's the one, made a fuck ton of money there, then our listeners will go there, and then eventually usually 5 years later, the fucking big corporations will finally catch wind and do something about it. And then when they arrive, that's when the big platforms tend to tighten it up completely. So for example, on YouTube, you're obviously placing ads before a video, and you can put in there, and this wasn't always the case, you can put in there if you're happy for your ads to go in one of three categories. One, anything goes, any video whatsoever, no matter how gory, horrific, whatever. Then there's acceptable, I think is what they call it, which is like 3 swear words a video. The content might be, on the edge, but it's not controversial. They might just be pushing the limits a bit. And then you've got completely and utterly safe, highly safe. They only introduced this because I can't remember what advertiser it was, but it was a big company wanted to place a bunch of YouTube ads, and they said, we're not doing it because we don't want our ads to go in front of videos about rape survivors and anything negative. We just want it to go on the happy clappy stuff. We don't want any swear words. We don't want anything about self-harm, drugs, alcohol, anything along those lines. So then YouTube rolled this out and was like, there we go. So that's, step one of YouTube bending over to the advertising overlords.
So, it's a commercial decision, and it makes sense because
of course, can't knock it.
Your life, if one big brand is saying to them, we're not advertising here because there'll be probably 20 others who are doing the same thing, but just not saying it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I presume then our ads are going, we don't give a shit, do we?
Oh yeah, for everything. Maximum gore, horrific, the worst topics on earth. The only
Very
thing
on brand.
Yeah, the only things that I've excluded are games, children's toys, and a few other things, because parents will give their kids the phone and they'll go onto YouTube and they'll start watching things. And say if the parent has Googled how to grow my business before, then all of a sudden they're watching Ryan's toys on YouTube. Our ad will show there. We don't want that. The adult's not going to be watching Ryan's toys. So that's the only exclusion we have. But that's smart. And the only reason we can be smart is because we have a strategy. And we don't bend our strategy to fit the tactics. The tactics obey the rules of the strategy. So if YouTube goes tits up or whatever tomorrow, we just take our strategy and we plop it onto the next platform. It was the reason that it was the only reason I grew my Facebook business at the beginning, because I was like, look, we're strategy first. Facebook's just secondary. It doesn't even matter that it's Facebook. We've got to get the strategy right, whether you're doing, lead generation, how are we actually going to make this fucking sale?
Well, going back to what we said yesterday about books, why they're so powerful, people just don't understand that. They don't seem to want to understand that if you've got a book that sells you, then your job is as simple as selling the book. That's all you got to do. And it is much easier to sell a book on any medium than it is to trying to sell, say, a coaching business or a mentoring business or a marketing business or a website design business or a copywriting business, because that message has to change so many times, and the different media for the different nuances and all these kind of things. Whereas if you've got a book, it's really straightforward. This book, if you're this person with this problem, this book will solve it for you.
Yeah,
that's it. And the book tells the whole story and does all the rest. And I've said to some people who are a bit reluctant to distance themselves, never mind leave, divorce from social media. If it helps you get your mind around this, think of your book as being a collection of all the social media posts you ever wanted to write. You know? So you can put your fucking gender identity, your bling, your sexuality, and all that shit in there if you want to. That's fine. And to be fair, there probably is. If depending on what kind of business you're selling, if you're a coach or something or a mentor, that's probably a legitimate place to put it, because people need to know whom they're getting into bed with, so to speak.
Yeah.
But you only have to write it once. You're not continually recycling and pushing it in people's faces.
Yeah, you don't have to be that.
And it's part of the wider narrative in the book,
Yeah, you don't look like cunts.
People notice, or people do see on LinkedIn, that the posts which are meaningful about their business don't do anywhere near so well as the stuff about, oh, I'm gay, or I'm decided I'm non-binary and here's my fucking the pronouns du jour. My pronouns on LinkedIn are the evil bold genius, or evil bold genius. They're my favourite pronouns. Well, they can't argue with it, can they? Because you're allowed to choose your own pronouns.
No, they can't argue. They can't argue, and they'll say that you're being facetious and you're demeaning their fight. But to them, I say, shut the fuck up.
Well, I find it quite bizarre. We give these people the vote, 18-year-old kids the vote. They can't even fucking decide what gender they are.
There's been we've got to wrap up, but I just want to say this. There's been, because this really fucks me off about politics. There's been several times where I have said I'm not voting because I just don't believe in the system. Like I just don't want to partake in it. That's never a good enough answer. So I thought, right, I'm tired of arguing with idiots. So some people I just started lying. Yeah, I voted for whoever they voted for, so I could end the conversation early. But then what I started doing to people that I'd be willing to have a conversation with, but I don't want to get into the whole system thing, is I don't feel educated enough about about all the parties to make an educated vote. So therefore, I feel like my vote could do more harm. And that's still not a good enough answer for them. Well, we've fought for this, right? You should vote. And they never try and explain it. They then try and pitch me on why I should vote for their party. And it's like, well, no, your views are biased. I'm not going to fucking listen to you. But I need to go.
I don't vote because I'm not playing the game.
Yeah, I'm not partaking. But I need to go. So,
right, darling. Yeah, wellfedfreelancer.com for the book. Well-fed business for the inner circle. Do it.
Yeah.
You'll thank us later.
If you're a member and you're listening to this and you want the deep dive on the 15 word marketing strategy, John will have a blog up there later. If you're not part of the membership site, buy the book and you'll be able to fucking read the blog. Or is that inner circle only?
Inner Circle only, I reckon.
Oh, you got to upgrade your cunts. See you on the
Silver.
inside. See you on the inside. 50 quid a month is nothing. Fuck me. Bye-bye.
No.